Welcome to Bet On It. It is the NFL edition, week 12. Oh my gosh, the time flies when you're not picking winners. All jokes aside, I'm Kelly Stewart at Kelly in Vegas, and we did hit our best bet last weekend, but then subsequently lost our barking dog. So on the roller coaster ride, we keep going. Marco D'Angelo has been absolutely crushing it. Joe Raineri joining us as well with those Are You High or Not High Enough segments that have been doing very well. And Teddy covers you and I, and just the tip. Wait, that sounded absolutely awful. Anyway, just the tip have been saving me on Survivor. Guys, we're going to get into it. Thursday Night Football. Teddy, you are up first. Look, here's a game that normally I'd want to say, okay, let's take the prime time divisional home dog. Pittsburgh, 3.5-point favorites off that nice win over the Ravens. Yes, I needed that very badly. At Cleveland. Very low total. Check the weather in this one, 36.
Yeah. Weather's likely to be a factor on Thursday night. The wind is supposed to be blowing, and that's why we've seen all of this under money come in. The look-ahead total for this game, 42 last week. It opened 39, and boom. We saw under money down to 36. We've actually seen a little buyback on the over. So there's some debate still in the betting markets about how bad the weather is going to be on Thursday night. Nonetheless, under money has been a prevailing theme for this ball game. I'm not going to give you a side total selection. I'm going to talk about the side here. My clients and I just cashed back-to-back 5% big tickets with Pittsburgh over the last 2 weeks. They had a 1-point win over Washington, a 2-point win against Baltimore. My hair got a little bit grayer, but we cashed the bets. Mike Tomlin's back on the Christmas card list. That being said, laying more than a field goal with the Steelers, in my mind, it's a little bit rich for this better. Pittsburgh has surprisingly been a good favorite this year. They're 4-2 against the spread. That being said, they were minus 2.5 or less as favorites in 4 of those 6 ball games. 6 of their 8 wins this year have come by a touchdown or more, which surprised me. That being said, they're still off back-to-back absolute ultra-intense barn burners that came down to the final play, and they're on a short week, and they're laying points, and they're laying more than a field goal. Oh, and by the way, Russell Wilson last week looked like Russell Wilson in Denver. All right. Pittsburgh, 4.1 yards per play in that ballgame, 0 for 4 in the red zone in that ballgame. Other than Pickens, the rest of the receivers combined 2 catches on 4 targets for 3 yards. And then you read the quotes from Pittsburgh after the game, defensive back to Sean Elliott. Going into the week, we knew how important this game was, meaning Baltimore last week. We knew how much talent they have. I felt like we went out there and played Steeler football. Great. Now it's a short week off that win, and you're laying more than 3. So, Cleveland, look, they have 2 division games so far. They had outright upset over the Ravens. They hung around with the Bengals. They won at least 1 game against all 3 division opponents last year. And I know the final score doesn't show it. Certainly not on the defensive end. They got Taysom Hill last week and had no answers for that guy. But the passing game worked last week, all right? Famous Jameis threw for 395 yards. Jerry Jeudy made plays. Njoku made plays. Elijah Moore was making plays. Cedric Tillman was making plays. That's a positive sign when you're talking about Cleveland catching points in this one. I can only take the Browns plus. I don't want to lay with Pittsburgh here, and the total's already been bet down enough. Cleveland plus the points is the way I'm looking for Thursday Night Football.
All right, Teddy, I may have to join you. That was a pretty convincing effort for me to take that divisional home dog. Now we're going to take a road favorite. Joe Raineri, Sunday night primetime game. Philadelphia, just a 2.5-point favorite at the LA Rams. 50.5. We know anytime you go to SoFi, it is going to be 50% filled with the opponent's fan base. Talk to me about this one, and don't forget who's got in charge of the mute button on the other side, our producer and Fly Eagles Fly lover.
Mm-hmm. I already got 14 messages in Slack, so yeah, I'm well aware. The Eagles are playing in LA here with absolutely 0 home field advantage. Listen, if you can tell me which Los Angeles Rams team shows up, I'll give you a better idea who's going to win this game. But I think I have a feeling coming out of New England in a bounce back spot. They looked great. The problem is they looked great against a Patriots secondary who ranks just about dead last in passing defense this year. They are about to take on an absolute monster in the Philadelphia defense who has played nothing but rejuvenated football since their week 5 bye. We are talking about the Eagles having the best defense in the NFL by just about every metric since that point. And we have said it on numerous occasions. With Vic Fangio, the defense takes a little while. There's a learning curve here with this defense with Vic Fangio. It always ends up getting better as the season progresses. And that's exactly what they have done here. Listen, great. You got Nakua back. You got Cooper Kupp. They've got Williams running the ball. Yeah, but, when you have success against a team like the Patriots and now you're going to go up against this Philadelphia defense, I just don't think they're going to have the same level of success here, Cal. Not to mention, we saw this game, what was it, last year? We saw Philadelphia grind it out, hold the ball for, 38-plus minutes in the game. They're going to do exactly the same thing here. They're going to run the ball. They're going to keep time of possession. They're going to force the Rams and Stafford into being one-dimensional and having to play catch-up, and that's when, obviously, this defense, who has, 11 turnovers in the last 4 games, that's where they jump into action here. To me, I don't like running to the window to back, road favorites here, but there is only one way to look here. That is with the Eagles, and that is also with the under in this one, because I just think the Eagles are going to grind it out, hold the ball, and not give the Rams opportunities to get back into the game.
Marco, Monday night, your arch nemesis, the Baltimore Ravens, 3-point favorites at the LA Chargers, total 51, the Jim Harbaugh versus John Harbaugh Bowl.
Yeah, this will be a good one, Kelly. And Baltimore, as Teddy talked about it when he previewed the Pittsburgh-Cleveland game, Baltimore was in a hard-hitting war with Pittsburgh last week, and they came up on the short end. So the knee-jerk reaction is going to be, Baltimore bounces back here, but I'm not doing it. The Chargers get to stay at home for another primetime game. They played on Sunday night last week, where Baltimore, after that physical game, they get an extra day, rest, but they got to go cross country to play a Charger team. The Chargers look great for, 2.5 quarters. They built a 27-6 third quarter lead. And I'll be honest with you, I was on the Chargers and I was feeling quite good. And then all of a sudden, we saw a glimpse of the old Chargers in that game when they blew that 27-6 lead. And all of a sudden, we're tied at 27-27, and I'm thinking, oh, man, this is the same old Chargers. They're back. I'm just going to want to puke here watching this game. But they found a way to win it. It wasn't pretty, but they found a way to win it. Now the Chargers are 7-3. You look at their 3 losses. It was to Pittsburgh, Kansas City, and Arizona. I said this last week when I gave it to my clients. All 3 of those teams, what do they have in common? They're all first-place division teams. Jim Harbaugh is doing what he does best. This team generally doesn't light it up on the scoreboard. They control the clock. They don't turn the football over. They only have 5 turnovers for the entire season. In 7 of those games, they had 0 turnovers. So this is a team that generally is not going to beat themselves. Defensively, they've allowed only 1 team to score more than 20 points, and that was last week against Cincinnati. And because they were behind, they had to throw the football the entire second half, and that's why they got to the 27. The Chargers' offense is improving by the week. Last 4 games in this order, going furthest back, they scored 26, 27, 27, and 34 last week. To me, if the Chargers make the playoffs, which I think they do, and they win a game or 2, we're going to go back and we're going to look at that Sunday night football game when they didn't choke to the Cincinnati Bengals, that was their coming out party. I think they have another statement game this week against Big Brother for Jim Harbaugh against John. I'm going to go ahead and take the Chargers at home to get the job done.
I slightly lean towards the Chargers there as well. I'm just still celebrating finally getting a best bet winner over those same Ravens. Marco, this Wednesday, it is a fill your cart sale. You can take 20% off as many daily and all access packages as you can fill in your cart. Use coupon code THANKS20 at checkout. All right, there he is with his Bitcoin t-shirt on. VR, give us a little bit of Bitcoin knowledge. We did a lot of this in 2020. You and I would jump on. We talked about what stocks we were going to buy, which coins we were looking at. Bitcoin hits 100,000. Are you out?
Yeah, I think, here's the problem, Kel. I do see a lot on the horizon that doesn't look good. I think mid-December, things start to deteriorate. And I think by the end of the year, the economy starts to show signs of big trouble. And the first thing that's going to go are the risk assets, the things that people could get rid of quickly. You can't get rid of houses quickly. You can't get rid of gold quickly, but you could get rid of stocks quickly. You could get rid of crypto quickly. So those are the first things to go. And those are the first things that are going to drop. So I really think that's coming. Now, are we going to see a $50,000 Bitcoin again? Maybe, maybe not. But I do not think this cycle is going to the moon. I do not think we're going to see a $200,000 Bitcoin. If we hit 100, we're lucky. And I think it's in that range about where my chart shows about 105. It could get there pretty much by the end of the year. But I think something's going to happen before that stops that from happening. So I'm out. By mid-December, I'm out of all investments except for the stuff that I'm holding long term. Some of the stocks that I'm, the generational stuff. Some of the crypto that I have in cold storage. Otherwise, I'm out. I am going to sit on cash. When Warren Buffett has that hugest cash pile he's had in his entire history, based on the percentage of cash to what the company's worth, it's a telling sign when a smart man like that says, I don't want to be in this market while everyone else is euphoric and watching it go up. Pay attention to the old man. He may know something. With that said, let's talk some.
Yeah, very interesting. Right? Very interesting stuff. These are
the biggest cash pile
he's
ever had. Yeah, the biggest he's ever had, Kel, for a reason.
Wow.
While the stock market's climbing, he's sitting on the sideline saying, great, make your money. It's all fake. He's saying it's all fake. And when it drops, he's going to come in and buy the shit cheap. That's what he does, man. That's what he does.
All right, well,
God bless.
VR gives us that NFL Week 12 gold. I'm going to open up my Coinbase account and take a peek and see what's going on over there. VR joins us every single Sunday to give us NFL late-breaking gold. But here on Wednesday, he gives us the early stuff. Let's hear it, VR.
Let's start off with Thursday Night Football, a game that's getting a lot of attention because of the weather. 80% chance of snow, a lot of wind, freezing cold conditions. So we saw the total dropped immediately from 42, look ahead, to 38.5, but that was not high enough, low enough, because it kept dropping more. Quick increments down to about that 36.5 range, but it's starting to trickle back up. And I think you'll see that because both of these offenses, if you look at last week's box score, kind of had a lot of opportunities to score that they didn't. So I think that the adjustment may be a little bit too high. And got to remember, cold weather also means, snow condition also means there's a possibility of turnovers, fumbles, short fields. Those could turn into points very quickly. So don't automatically conclude that, cold weather games stay under. There is sharp money on the under, of course, and definitely on Cleveland. At 4.5 and at 4, they took the Cleveland Browns. Move on to Sunday's action. Colts at 7.5. They like the Colts because of the injuries that are starting to pile up on the Detroit side. And of course, everyone expects them to regress a little bit. Chiefs, Panthers, nothing much to report there. Vikings, Bears. This is where we saw some two-way action on Minnesota and Chicago. You saw Chicago money come in at +4, +3.5, but at 3, you saw some resistance. You saw definitely sharp group came in and laid the 3 on Minnesota. That pushed the line back up. So you saw dog money on Chicago before that, but at 3, that's where the Minnesota love comes in. Bucks, Giants. Bucks got bet up because of the Tommy DeVito situation. So don't conclude that as Bucks steam because I'm kind of seeing it up to 6 now. But a lot of sharps that I spoke to are looking to take the dog there, just sitting back to see how high this line continues to climb. Move on to the Patriots, another team getting love at 7.5. Patriots at 7.5, and a lot of love on the over. It looks like New England found their future quarterback. They bet over 43 and 44, which was the look ahead, and bet it again at 45 and 45.5. That's why this total is as high as it is. Go down to the Denver Broncos, another team that continues to get love from the betting syndicates. And I think a lot of that has to do with the public betting them as well. This has recency bias written all over it. You got Denver coming off a 30-plus point win. They're 4-1 their last 5 against the spread. Looks to me like they're getting out ahead of the public because it was that 3, that key number of 3 was the look ahead. They laid it. It went up to 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5, 5.5. You saw a little bit of resistance, but still more Denver money. That's a lot of getting out ahead of the market and a lot of getting out ahead of the public, who will be heavy on the Denver Broncos against what looks like a Raiders team that's more or less given up on the season. Go down to 49ers Packers, an interesting game here. They haven't gotten to that key 3 yet on the Packers side. I'm going to look out for that and see if it gets there. Will we see 49er money come in? But so far, it seems like some public money has taken some 49ers action. And that's why we haven't seen that key 3, because a couple of sharps that I know have already taken the Green Bay side. Finally, LA Rams against the Philadelphia Eagles. That's the Sunday night game. They took the Rams at +3, which was the look ahead. That's why it's 2.5 right now. If you remember, Philly were 4-point favorites there last year. They won the game 23-14. So an adjustment down from that kind of doesn't make sense to me. And they went over there. I think that was a Raz play. So the line moved up immediately once they bet it. But usually when totals move, especially around those numbers, 48, 49, 50, 51, you will see some resistance. So obviously, once his group moved it up, another group saw some value on the under and came back the other way, which is why we're looking at about 48.5, 48, or 49, depending where you shop on that Eagles game. But the over did get hit first. So that's pretty much where we are as of Wednesday. Again, I'll be back on Sunday for last call. I will come in on the correct link so I don't mess up the show for anybody else that wants to share information as well. I promise you, you did not miss much last Sunday, but this Sunday I will have extra bonus stuff for you guys. I promise you.
John Murray, technical difficulties. VR, technical difficulties. KIV, technical difficulties. Last Sunday was one for the record.
I think I'm the culprit that creates them for everyone else. Forgive me. Like, if Jess isn't here to do the shit for me, it doesn't go very well on the technical side. So forgive me for that. And I love the team at Wager Talk who's so patient and probably presses mute every time they curse under their breath at me, but they're very nice otherwise.
VR, we love you. We will see you this Sunday. Again, Wager Talk's last call for any of that last minute gold. WT.buzz/VR is VR's homepage. At Greek_Gambler on TikTok and X, and at Greek_Gambler7. Doing lots of TikToks over there. Good thing Jess is running that show as well. VR always coming in, giving us late breaking teaser news. Those have been very profitable this season, so do not miss out on Wager Talk's last call on Sunday. All right, let's bring back in Marco, Joe, Teddy. We've got just the tip, maybe a sandwich game. Are you high? And of course, I have a barking dog for you. It's time for some of those sandwiches. The deli's back open. But Marco, before we get into it, can you let everybody know how red hot you've been over at wagertalk.com?
Well, Kelly, it's been an incredible run, 2024. And over the last couple weeks, it's been amazing over the weekends with the football for sure. The last 2 months has been phenomenal. You can get everything I have for 2 weeks for just $149. This will include 5% play this week, and we'll probably have one the following week. And oh, by the way, those 5% plays, now 16-3 going back to February with them as we cashed another big 5% play last Saturday night when Kansas got the job done against BYU. Join me for this 2-week package, and what's special about it is, guess what? It will include Thanksgiving week. You know what happens on Thanksgiving week. We've got turkey. We've got football for 5 days from Thursday to Monday. Join us for the 2-week package, just $149. It's normally $99 per week. You'll get 2 weeks for $149. Moving on to the sandwich game, and maybe next week we'll have a couple leftover turkey sandwiches for you. But this week we're going with a sandwich game. And no, it's not going to be a Philly cheesesteak. I'll have to check in with Dan what the favorite sandwich is there in LA. But I am going to be going with the Rams this week. And I'm looking at this one. Yes, I know, and I'm going to be disagreeing with Joe from earlier in the show. Philadelphia's won 6 in a row, but the last 2 wins are about as satisfying as they can get for Philadelphia, in my opinion. 2 weeks ago, they beat Dallas. And I know Dallas is trash this year, but it's still Dallas. And if you're a Philadelphia Eagle or a Philadelphia Eagle fan, it still means a lot when you beat the Dallas Cowboys. Then they turn around on a short week, 4 days after the Dallas win, and plays Washington. The only team that's within striking distance of them that they have to worry about in the NFC East. What do? They beat them as well. Now they get some extra days to recuperate. That's an advantage for them. But you know what? I just feel this Philadelphia team, after those 2 wins, and because they were both division games, are going to be feeling just a little fat and sassy coming into this one. Now, I know it's a standalone TV game that, generally speaking, you're not going to be flat for. But look who they have up next. After playing Dallas and Washington, they got the Baltimore Ravens on deck. That is a much bigger sandwich spot for me. I'm going to look to the Rams here. And the Rams, they're 5-5. So it's kind of easy for them to look past the Rams. But this is a misleading 5-5 for the Rams. They're 4-1 in their last 5 games. And how does that coincide? Well, they're getting players back. Cooper Kupp mainly. Since he's been back, Matthew Stafford has been playing much better. In fact, he's had 4 straight games now where he's passed for 250 or more yards. During Philadelphia's 6-game winning streak, they really only faced 2 good offenses. That was Cincinnati and that was Washington. Now, Washington's been struggling lately with that offense the last couple of weeks. So I don't know if you want to hand that to the Philadelphia defense or Washington declining overall. Both teams need to win, but if you look at the divisions they're in and look at the records, the Rams need this game much more. They're in that NFC West where there is an absolute logjam with 4 teams. You've got Arizona with a 1-game lead and the other 3 teams at 5-5, 1 game behind. You can't afford to lose games in the NFC West right now. They need it more. I'm taking the Rams, and I know that Philadelphia defense, everybody's patting them on the back. Let's see what happens this week when they actually face some receivers and a quarterback that can throw the football. I'm taking the Rams as the sandwich game.
Sorry, Marco. I think we have to record that whole segment again because the producer hit your mute button.
Funny, Kelly.
Almost got you, Marco. Almost got you. Joe, this segment's been really good. Are you high? Are you too high? What's going on with the totals this week in the NFL?
Yeah, so it's been a good run here, Cal, all season long here with the totals, and this week, I think we're way too high once again, and it appears that the market is agreeing with me because this total continues to get bet down. And I am going to head with the Giants and the Tampa Bay Bucks here. It's sitting right around 41.5, maybe 42 if it's still available. And listen, the reality is, the minute that you decided that Tommy DeVito was the best option you have, you've already signaled to me and everyone else, A, you're not worried about your job, Brian Dable. And B, you are looking to get yourself a new quarterback next year in the draft because the tank is on. I mean, listen, I don't know why you bring in Drew Lock and had him as the backup the entire season. If when you finally decide to make the change, you go to Tommy Cutlets, who, by the way, we've seen Tommy Cutlets as a starting quarterback with the Giants last year, and they averaged around 12 points a game when he played in those games as a quarterback. So I just do not see how in the world that the Giants offense is going to be able to put anything up here of any significance to help this total get up. Not to mention, weather is not scheduled to be great in this spot. So I would keep an eye on that at MetLife. We know when the wind blows there, it makes it very difficult. And yes, you've got a Bucs team that is not going to have Tristan Wirfs, one of their best offensive linemen. He's out because of the MCL. You are going to have a very good Giants defensive line there with Dexter Lawrence and company, who are not going to give up easily there. And I think the Giants defense will be the difference in this game. It's what's going to keep this a lower scoring game. Not interested if Mike Evans returns or not. It's a hamstring injury. He's one play away from being back on the sideline and taking 3 steps backwards. So not interested if Mike Evans plays or doesn't play, but I think we can all agree Tommy DeVito as a quarterback for the Giants Yeah, it doesn't spell a whole lot of points. I think it's a dead under in this game, especially given the win situation we're going to have. No way am I looking to back an over here. This number is just way too high. This is going to land closer to 35 than it is 42 as far as I'm concerned. It's an under for me here, Kel, in this game.
Sounds like a snooze fest. Can't wait to take Tampa Bay and Survivor. All right, Teddy. You have not told me to sell Tampa Bay yet, but this week you're telling me to sell the team I used last week in Survivor, the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, there were some concerns certainly about Minnesota last week, again in the game at Tennessee. And they were lucky enough to get the win and cover for those of us who had them. I don't know, they were the right side in that game. And I'm not sure they're going to be the right side necessarily moving forward. We talk about just the tip, buy, sell, stock watch. I went back and looked, we had sold the Colts in week 8. We bought the Saints in week 9. We bought Green Bay week 10. We bought Miami week 11. And most of those pointing in the right direction. That being said, we haven't been selling enough lately. Let's sell Minnesota right here, right now. And it has everything to do with an injury that has been critical, and yet no one's talking about. That's, of course, the loss of Christian Darrisaw. They lost left tackle Christian Darrisaw, and the offense has not been the same without him. They traded to Jacksonville to get Cam Robinson, and the 3 games since the Darrisaw injury, what have we seen? Under. The offense hasn't really moved the football effectively. They had, no touchdowns in the game against the Jags. Last week against Tennessee, out-yarded and yards per play by the Titans. They won that game because they were plus 10 in penalties more than any other factor. But when you have an offensive line that is struggling, they could not run with the lead at all last week. 2.5 yards per carry, 33 carries, 82 yards. Aaron Jones, Cam Akers, both ineffective. The running game's not working. You have a quarterback, Sam Darnold, when he's under pressure, and he was under pressure, almost half his dropbacks last week. Darnold's not a QB you want under pressure. Yes, this is a solid defense. The defense was dominant last week. That being said, one thing we know about Brian Flores' defense, the more film you get on him, well, the adjustments aren't always there. I think Minnesota has done what they're going to do in terms of point spread success. They're 8-2 straight up right now. They're considered a contender. I think a month from now, we might be looking at them as a pretender. I've got the Vikings as a team to fade moving forward.
I jinxed myself last week. I said the barking dogs had been doing well, and then we took the Patriots. And this week, I'm stepping in front of a freight train. Detroit. Yeah, I'm going to take the Colts plus 7.5. Plenty of 7.5s left available on the Wager Talk odds screen. Looks like Circa, DraftKings, amongst a few others. But we are starting to see this one tick down. And I usually like that. It's in my favor. That means somebody far smarter than myself agrees with me. Anthony Richardson is got to be the guy in Indianapolis. I understand the Joe Flacco experiment was fun, but Anthony Richardson is the guy you want to build your franchise around. Detroit, looking at a couple of injury concerns still for this team. So keep an eye out on who is hurt, who is not hurt come Friday afternoon on those late injury reports. Those are crucial. But the bottom line is I didn't love this much this week in the NFL, as I've said for, pretty much the last 6 or 7 weeks. It's been kind of this weird roller coaster ride. So I made a phone call to Ralph Michaels, and he said, you should check out this week's gold sheet for a system play that agrees with you on the Colts. 17-34-1 against the spread since 2011. Teams off a win of 35 plus points, and they are now a favorite or a dog up to a field goal. That is a fade Detroit play, everyone. So find yourself a 7.5 here and take the Colts. I know it's scary, but this is a line that's gotten a little bit out of control. Hey, maybe for obvious reasons. I know a lot of people expect this team to go out there and win themselves a Super Bowl. And I'm not denying that Detroit does not have that capability. But again, lots of banged up guys. We're going to see who ends up giving it a go. Currently, about 3 or 4 guys questionable right here on Wednesday afternoon. Lots of guys on IR and guys out for the season for the Detroit Lions. Those injuries are starting to pile up. So keep an eye. This might be just a few too many points. And, well, of course, because this is barking dogs, don't forget to sprinkle just a little bit on that money line in case the Colts mess around and win this game outright. It's time for the proptologist, Andy Lang. Andy, tell me what you've got going on over at wagertalk.com before you go into giving me your best prop bet for the week.
5% college football best bet is what I have up. We are number one lifetime in ROI. We only do one college football play per week. Since we started doing that, we are 21-8. Very proud of that record. We're coming off of a nice win on Purdue under their team total last week. This is only our second 5% play of the year in college football. Absolutely go grab that. The winning percentage is through the roof. 67% winners this year. 5% best bet for college football. Grab that. WT.buzz/AL, wagertalk.com. All right, now it's time to get serious. Let's talk some Thursday night football. And let's talk my man, Jaylen Warren. Jaylen Warren is going to be our best bet. We're going to take him over 37.5 rushing yards. Since Russell Wilson became the starter, he has had 44 against the Jets, 46 against the Giants, 66 against Commanders, and 41 against the Ravens, the number one rush defense in the NFL. The last 3 weeks, the Browns are giving up an average of 145 yards rushing per game. The weather is going to be brutal. It's going to be snowy. It's going to be rainy. It's going to be a little bit windy, which to me screams a lot of running. Seems to be low-scoring conditions, but no matter what the score is, I just feel that Jaylen Warren is going to touch the ball quite a bit. I debated going with Najee Harris, but his total is much more, and I think Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris get similar amounts of carries in this yucky game. So all the values on Jaylen Warren in the Steelers' backfield, he's gone over every game since Russell Wilson became the starter. Give me Jaylen Warren over 37.5 rushing yards for your best bet.
Thank you to Andy. WT.buzz/AL is his short page there on Wager Talk. You guys know these glasses. They only mean one thing. It's time for some TNA with Ralph Michaels. There's the man with the pen bringing us all the trends and angles each week here on the NFL edition of Bet On It. Ralph Michaels, what have you dug up for us this week?
Well, Kelly, I'm going to actually jump ahead to Monday Night Football, and in the Harbaugh Bowl, I will be going with the Baltimore version of the Harbaugh Bowl. You're looking at a situation, and right now, there's a lot of people high on the San Diego's Chargers. I think they're the LA Chargers. We'll correct that. And you say, wow, look, they won 26-8. They won 27-10. They won 27-17. They won 34-27. That is 4 straight games, 4 straight wins by a touchdown or more. But I say, wait, not so fast. Let's look at those 4 opponents: Cincinnati, Tennessee, Cleveland, and New Orleans. Well, Kelly, those teams are a combined 12-30, 29% this year. So while people think the Chargers are playing well, it is more attributed to the weakest schedule over the last 4 weeks of the NFL season. Now, they were home against Tennessee, they were home against Cincinnati, and they were home against Cleveland. So before I gave this game out, I said, wow, is that an advantage for a team being home for a 3rd straight game after winning each of the first 2 games? And this one shocked me. I'm not often shocked, and it's not a wow number, but if a team is playing a 3rd straight home game and they won the previous 2 home games, they're only 22-48 against the spread. That is 41%. And if they're a dog playing a 3rd straight home game after winning the first 2, they have covered only 29% against the spread. Now we look at Baltimore, where we know they're off that loss against Pittsburgh, making some mistakes, field goal kicking, not things that we expect the Ravens to do, but they still have an elite offense. When I look at teams that are on the road with the line between the threes, and they're off a close loss of 3 points or less, and they're off a loss as well, those teams have gone 66-31, 68% against the spread. And lastly, for the Chargers, the 3rd system, if you're off a home win and you score 27 or more points and you won by 10 or more points, and now you're a home dog, so you had a nice win, but you are the inferior team this time, 93-136. That is 41% against the spread And if those teams are a home dog, 3-14, 17.6% ATS. The Ravens have not only covered 6 straight after a loss, they've covered those games by over 10 points per game. Added up, yes, Baltimore's defense is poor, but the offense gets it done here. The Ravens off the loss, I still have them as the superior team, and the inferior opponents that the Chargers have faced make this my best bet, taking Baltimore minus the points.
If you guys are looking for some more TNA, you can always check out Ralph at Cal Sports LV there on X. And gosh, we're going to get his Instagram going again, I promise you guys, because we love trends and angles. Ralph, can you also give yourself a little self-promotion? I know you just cashed a really nice birthday win.
It is. I mean, this is a good weekend in college football. I'm on a nice little run in college football. I already have 2 plays loaded. There's a very, very good chance I'll have a 5% college football total. I'm waiting on the weather. I want to get a little clearer on that. So we'll check on that. But Kelly, I just want to bring something up as we were talking and we're getting into winter. And I brought this up on Wager Talk today. You guys keep in mind, VR talked about weather and potential for this Thursday game. If you blindly bet every NFL game where the winds were 15 miles per hour or more, it was 59% to the under since 2015. So the wind does matter late in the season as we start doing that. So keep an eye as we get into late November and December in the NFL.
Always good stuff from Ralph. His homepage over at wagertalk.com, wt.buzz/RM. Going to take these bad boys off because it's time for best bets. All right, it's time to get into those best bets. Marco D'Angelo, you get to go first. Ironically, this is a similar team Teddy just talked about in an earlier segment.
Yeah, well, Teddy gave you the tip. I'm giving you the whole thing here. I'm going the other way. I'm going with Minnesota, and I am laying the points here. I get the injury and being banged up. But this Minnesota team, they're 8-2, okay? The public perception is why I don't understand. People want to step in front of them. Their only 2 losses this season came to Detroit. And, oh, by the way, isn't Detroit everybody's favorite to go to the Super Bowl this year? And they lost that game by 2 points on a last-second field goal. Yeah, that's, nothing to be ashamed of. And then what they do? Well, 4 days later, they played on Thursday Night Football, did Minnesota. They traveled to L.A. to play a team they don't see all the time. And I tell you all the time, road teams on Thursday Night Football that are not playing a division rival where it's easier to prepare for them because you face them twice a year, that it is tougher for those teams. And that's why, in fact, I gave my customers the Rams that Thursday night. And the fact that they were coming off a gut-wrenching loss. So other than those 2 losses, and I think the second loss had as much to do with the first loss, this team has played winning football. They've won all their other games. I am going to take them here. Everybody's going to want to run to take the Bears because why? Oh, they were getting 6 points last week against Green Bay, and they only lost by 1 on a blocked field goal at the end of the game. So clearly, if they could cover as a 6-point dog, now they're a 3.5-point dog, telling you they're playing a team not as good, in perception-wise, that they should get the job done. No, the Bears are a train wreck right now. They keep losing football games, finding new ways to do it. And oh, by the way, the number 1 draft pick, Caleb Williams, well, what's he done? Well, the last 4 games, the Bears have gotten 15 points, 9 points, 3 points, 19 points. Yeah, that's who I want to back. A losing team that can't score against a team that's 8-2 and just keeps finding ways to get it done. A little note, since 2022, Minnesota 6-2 against the spread as a road favorite. And I said it at the beginning of the year. I know everybody keeps waiting for the other shoe to fall on Sam Darnold. He's 8-2. He's this year's version of Baker Mayfield, making the best of the situation. I'm going to take the Vikings. I'm laying the 3.5. And I'll tell you what, usually I tell you jump on a game now because the line's going to go against us. I'm going to tell you wait till Sunday. There's a strong possibility this gets to 3. And as you know, if we're laying, we like 3 better than 3.5. But I still like it if you have to lay the 3.5. But I think you'll get a better number on Sunday. Take the Vikings. I've got them winning 24-13.
We're just going to start making this the NFC North show because my best bet's also in the NFC North. But first, let's go south. Joe Raineri, a team that everybody used in Survivor last week, but I saved them in my Splash Survivor because we have to start doing double picks. So I'm going to use Miami in 1, and I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit apprehensive here. 1 bad hit on Tua, that's all she writes. But you think they're worthy of laying 7 points here?
Yeah, I do. I mean, the buzz here in South Florida with this team is actually pretty exciting, and it should be because the Dolphins, they're going to play with a sense of purpose now. And why? Well, look at the AFC bubble right now with teams that are vying for a possible playoff spot. It's trash. All those teams are trash. And the fact is, they win this game, they go to 5-6. They have a very realistic chance here to finish 9-8 or 10-7. And quite honestly, that could be enough in order to sneak in and get to the playoffs. And you look at the games they got left. The Jets twice. They got Cleveland, who also could be in full tank mode by the time they play them. And they got this game against the Patriots. Now, they've already seen the Patriots. We saw this earlier this year in New England, but that was Tyler Huntley versus Jacoby Brissett. And thank goodness we don't have to sit through that again. We'll have Tua and Drake May this time. And let's face it, this is exactly the game. We just saw this game against the Raiders. The Miami Dolphins under Mike McDaniels has always done an amazing job of punching down. They beat the living snot out of teams that are less than what they are. New England, much like the Raiders, is less than they are. And not to mention, when you look at the history of these teams, Miami's covered 8 straight versus the Pats. They've won 7 of 8. Their average margin of victory here is close to 9 points. Tua is 6-0 against the Patriots. He, too, has no problem covering spreads by well over a touchdown against this team. They've covered 6 of the last 7 at home against New England. You go down the list here, this is exactly the kind of game where Miami scores more points, and scores even more points. They're averaging 28 points a game over the last 4 weeks. A lot of those points came against less than teams. That's what New England is. I love Drake May, but he has been sacked 17 times here over the last couple of games. I do not see Drake May having a ton of success in this game, but I do see Miami sticking it to New England as best they can, and like they have done over the years. So I'll lay the 7 because this has got double-digit win for Miami written all over it. They always do against New England, and I don't see this year being any different given what's at stake for Miami at this point.
Teddy, as somebody who's always looking for dogs that can win outright, I didn't even look at this team because, well, they're absolutely and utterly nauseating. Since week 1, Will Levis has been the bane of my existence. And now you want to take them plus 8.5.
Absolutely. I'm taking them with confidence. Tennessee Titans plus the points this week. And there's a little bit of bet on Tennessee and a lot of bet against Houston. I'll start with a little bit of bet on for Tennessee. Let's start with this. Will Levis was pretty good last week. All right. All of a sudden, Calvin Ridley's healthy. Tyler Boyd's making plays downfield. He had that perfect 98-yard touchdown strike to Westbrook Ichane last week. 4 different receivers had catches of more than 20 yards. 3 of them had 30-plus yard receptions. The Titans' passing game is getting better. Titans' defensive line controlled the flow last week. They've done that in a number of games this season. You know, Minnesota only 2.5 yards per carry on 33 attempts. They tried and tried again. Tennessee's defense held in that ballgame. Now, they had penalties galore, 13 penalties for 91 yards. That doesn't even tell the story. They had an illegal formation penalty, wipe out a touchdown, and a 23-yard reception. They had a 4th down stop that got extended by a real questionable call and ended up being a Minnesota touchdown. The game turned on the penalties, not on Tennessee's play. I'm going to talk about the Houston part of the equation in just a second. But first, I got to let you guys know I'm hot right now. 3-0 in the NFL last Sunday, 17-8, 68% over the last 8 weeks. I'm number one all time at Wager Talk with my 5% NFL plays. You can use promo code TC69 at checkout and get 7-day all access, more than 30% off, just $69. Again, check out what I can do for you and your bankroll. TC69 at checkout is going to get you a nice discount off that 7-day all access pass. Yes, there is some bet on for Tennessee, and certainly when it comes to betting bandwagon, this team has no betting bandwagon. They're 2-8 straight up, 1-9 against the spread. Everyone who's bet Tennessee this year has been burned. Wise guys, Joes, pros, doesn't matter. So we're not a whole lot of support for this team in the marketplace, which is why we're catching more than a touchdown with a Texans team that shouldn't be laying more than a touchdown in this game. Look at this spot for Houston. All right. They're off the game against Detroit with the 5 Goff picks and the blown 15-point lead, and they lose. And then the blowout win over Dallas on Monday Night Football to get their redemption. The quotes, right tackle Titus Howard, it was our best week of practice all season. Joe Mixon. I think everyone was dialed in on the game plan. We came out here and executed for 4 quarters. Great. Now do that 2 weeks in a row or 3 weeks in a row, really. And let's not forget, Houston consistently failing to win by margin. 12 of the last 15 regular season wins dating back to last October by 7 points or less. Yeah, Tennessee's a barking dog here. I like them plus the points. I wouldn't argue with anyone that wants to sprinkle.
Oh, boy. Wow. Teddy covers. I have a feeling that is going to be an interesting teaser spot, at least for the other side there. Speaking of teasers, this was a team that, well, if you had them in a teaser last week, San Francisco absolutely just completely screwed you, and I feel bad. But that's because San Francisco has some issues, and that's why we're betting against them this week. San Fran dropped 3 straight in Green Bay, and I know that's been a while, but this is not a Niners team that goes north into the freezing cold tundra and tends to win games outright. I think this Packers team, while they did get very, very lucky versus the Chicago Bears, having a missed field goal go their way last week, I like the Packers here to get a dominating win here at home. This is not a Niners team I'm looking to back in any form or fashion. Jordan Love, I think he's been doing all right. Yes, Packers sitting in 3rd place in the NFC North, but he's got over 2,000 passing yards, 16 touchdowns. And if he could just clean up those interceptions, I think he is going to be there for a very long time in Green Bay. Again, I like the Packers here. I think this has been a team that has impressed me throughout the season. Niners, I'm looking to sell this team. Too many terrible losses. Now, I know those are particularly in the division, but I don't see them getting up big to go on the road here. I know no Aaron Rodgers for San Francisco to play, but I do think that Green Bay will get the job done here at home. Lay the 2.5. If it gets to 3, you already know you're too late to the party. All right, let's bring in the guys to say goodbye. My favorite 3 guys on the panel, dragging me to the end of NFL season. It has been a rough one for me this year on that NFL roller coaster ride, but we're still alive in Survivor. If you guys are not tired of me talking about that yet, Splash and Office Football Pool, not Circa, unfortunately. That's why you don't lay points in the division on the road. But lesson to be learned there from myself, Marco D'Angelo, Joe Raineri, Teddy Covers, Andy Lang, VR, Ralph Michaels. Until next week, let's bet on it.